Hello friends, welcome to Defense Matrix. On this channel you will get fully information about defense and technology. Let's view the video. The SR-71 Blackbird, birth of a legend, the secret origins of the SR-71A. The height of the Cold War, the world was a powder keg of suspicion and secrets. The United States needed eyes in the sky, capable of peering deep into Soviet territory without ever being caught. Traditional spy planes like the U-2 had already proven vulnerable, especially after one was shot down over the USSR in 1960. That incident changed everything. America needed something faster, stealthier, and far more advanced. Enter Skunk Works. Lockheed Martin's ultra-secret division led by the brilliant and unconventional engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson. Johnson and his team were given a near-impossible mission: design a plane that could fly at 3 times the speed of sound, at 85,000 feet, and be invisible to radar. Not just difficult, almost science fiction at the time. The result? A plane that didn't just push the boundaries of technology, but obliterated them. To survive the intense heat generated at Mach 3, the aircraft had to be built almost entirely out of titanium, a metal so rare in the US that the CIA had to secretly purchase it from the Soviet Union, the very enemy they were spying on. Codenamed the A-12, the prototype was tested in extreme secrecy at Area 51, long before it became a pop culture phenomenon. This aircraft would eventually evolve into the SR-71 Blackbird, a plane that would go on to set records that still stand today. But what makes this story legendary isn't just the numbers or the specs, it's the sheer audacity. While the world was building rockets, Johnson's team built a machine that flew faster than any bullet, at altitudes commercial jets couldn't dream of reaching, all in complete radio silence, beyond the reach of enemy missiles. The SR-71 wasn't just built to spy, it was built to survive in the deadliest skies on Earth. And it all began with a simple, terrifying question. How do you outfly a nuclear threat? Engineering the impossible. Inside the SR-71's design, from the moment the SR-71 was conceived, it was clear. No existing aircraft could be its blueprint. Everything had to be created from scratch, from its frame to its fuel. This wasn't just engineering. This was science fiction made real. Let's start with the shape. That long, sleek, alien-like body wasn't just for looks. Every curve and edge was designed to reduce radar visibility. The sharp Chinese running along its fuselage were among the earliest forms of stealth technology, decades before the F-117 Nighthawk. The Blackbird wasn't invisible, but at Mach 3 and 85,000 feet, it didn't need to be invisible for long. Its engines were monsters. The Pratt & Whitney J58 turbojet engines were so advanced, they transitioned mid-flight into ramjets, allowing the SR-71 to cruise at over 2,200 mph. Unlike other jets, the SR-71 became more efficient as it went faster. Most jets burn out at those speeds. The Blackbird came alive. But speed came at a cost. At Mach 3, friction caused the aircraft to heat up to 600 degrees F, making it expand mid-flight. That's right, the SR-71 actually grew several inches while flying. Engineers had to design it with loose-fitting panels, which meant it leaked fuel on the ground. It was only sealed tight at cruising speed. Then there was the fuel. JP7, a special blend so stable you could drop a match in it and nothing would happen. It needed a chemical ignition system just to start the engines. This wasn't aviation fuel, it was rocket science. Even the cockpit was otherworldly. Pilots had to wear full pressure suits, similar to those worn by astronauts. Inside, they had to manage temperatures, altitudes, and speeds that no other human had ever experienced in an aircraft. Every part of the SR-71 was over-engineered, overbuilt, and overpowered. But that's what it took to build the fastest, highest-flying plane in history. It wasn't just a machine. It was a symphony of precision, created by minds that refused to accept the limits of physics. The Blackbird didn't just fly. It defied everything we thought was possible. Missions behind enemy lines. The SR-71 in action, once airborne, the SR-71. Blackbird entered a world few machines had ever touched, a realm above commercial airliners, above weather, and above the reach of almost every defense system on Earth. But what truly set the SR-71 apart wasn't just its speed, it was what it accomplished with that speed. The SR-71 wasn't a weapon, it was a spy with wings. Armed not with missiles, but with state-of-the-art cameras and sensors, it could photograph an area the size of New York City in just one pass, with resolution sharp enough to identify a license plate from 85,000 feet. During the Cold War, it was dispatched on classified reconnaissance missions over North Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East, and along the borders of the Soviet Union. Each flight was a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. The SR-71 would flash into contested airspace, gather critical intelligence, and vanish before enemy radars could even lock on. In one famous mission, the SR-71 was tasked with gathering intel during the Yom Kippur War in 1973. Flying from bases, in Europe, it scanned thousands of square miles of battlefield in minutes, delivering vital data that helped shape international diplomacy. The Blackbird also played a crucial role in monitoring nuclear facilities and missile deployments. Its cameras could detect changes in terrain, heat signatures, and construction patterns, often spotting threats before they were ever publicly acknowledged. But these missions were anything but routine. Pilots had to remain completely calm under immense pressure. With no defensive weapons, their only safety net was speed. If detected, they pushed the throttle forward and trusted the Blackbird to simply outrun everything. Despite flying more than 4,000 missions, not a single SR-71 was ever lost to enemy fire. Surface-to-air missiles were launched often, hundreds of times in fact, but the Blackbird outran them all. Each mission was a balance of risk and reward. But the intelligence gathered changed wars, saved lives, and often kept the world from the brink of disaster. The SR-71 didn't just serve in silence, it rewrote the rules of warfare without ever firing a shot. Outrunning missiles, the Blackbird's greatest escapes. If the SR-71 was legendary for its speed, it became mythical for how it escaped death over and over again. In an age where radar-guided missiles were growing smarter and faster, the Blackbird did the impossible. It made them all irrelevant. The Blackbird's defense strategy was simple: don't get hit. With a cruising speed over Mach 3.2 and the ability to climb to 85,000 feet, the SR-71 was untouchable. Soviet and Chinese radar systems could detect the aircraft, but by the time they locked on and launched a missile, the SR-71 was already gone. Over its lifetime, more than 1,000 missiles were reportedly launched at the SR-71. Not one made contact. One of the most legendary escapes occurred over North Korea. An SR-71 pilot received a missile alert warning. He immediately advanced the throttle to full military power. The aircraft accelerated to Mach 3.3 and climbed higher into the stratosphere. The missile lost energy and tumbled back to Earth. The pilot later remarked, "We never turned. We just kept going." Another tale from the Cold War tells of the SR-71 outpacing multiple Soviet SA-2 and SA-5 missiles launched from different sites. Radar operators watched in frustration as their screens tracked the missiles, none of which ever got closer than several miles from the target. But speed alone wasn't the only factor. The Blackbird was also cloaked in early stealth features. Its radar cross-section was equivalent to a small bird, thanks to its sleek shape and special radar-absorbing paint. Enemy radars could barely detect it, and by the time they did, it was too late. Pilots described flying the SR-71 as riding a bolt of lightning. The sheer acceleration when evading a threat was unlike anything else in aviation history. There was no evasive maneuvering, only a straight line into the distance, faster than sound, faster than anything that chased them. Every escape added to the Blackbird's aura. It became more than a plane. It was a ghost in the sky, feared by adversaries and admired by allies. These legendary escapes weren't just feats of technology. They were the result of brilliant engineering, brave pilots, and a machine that redefined the limits of what was humanly possible. Retirement and legacy. Why the SR-71 was grounded in 1998, the SR-71 Blackbird was officially retired. But not because it was outdated. In fact, no aircraft has ever fully replaced it. The decision came down to politics and money. Satellites were cheaper, drones were emerging, and Congress questioned the cost of keeping the Blackbird in the sky. Yet, its legacy remains unmatched. The SR-71 still holds records for fastest air-breathing manned aircraft, and its design continues to inspire next-generation aerospace technology. Every stealth aircraft, high-speed drone, and hypersonic jet owes a debt to the Blackbird. It was more than just a spy plane. It was a symbol of American ingenuity, proof that when pushed to the edge, human innovation could soar beyond anything imaginable. Thanks for watching. Subscribe our channel Defense Matrix for more interesting and knowledgeable videos.